But somehow, in the age of Trump, the plane might actually be just the second most corrupt deal he has cooking with the Gulf nations. I mean, you may remember that one of the Trump family's new money-making schemes is a Trump-branded cryptocurrency. Earlier this month, an investment fund backed by the government of the UAE announced that it would be using the Trump family's cryptocurrency for a $2 billion investment, propping up Trump's cryptocurrency and essentially channeling millions into Trump's family business. And then today, on the current Air Force One that Trump is somehow coping with, he was asked about that scheme, understandably. But Mr. Art of the Deal, you can see him there, conveniently said he knows nothing about it.
An Emirati government backed the $2 billion deal using the Trump digital coins. How did that deal come about?
I don't know anything about it. I really don't know anything about it, but I'm a big crypto fan, I will tell you.
What's that you say about the Emirates paying my family? I don't know anything about it, but I love crypto. Big fan. Now, this whole deal seems like the kind of thing that would, in most circumstances, pique the interest of Republicans in Congress. I mean, really anyone in Congress. After all, Republicans spent years crowing about alleged foreign business deals of the so-called Biden crime family, as they deemed it. I mean, a $400 million plane plus a $2 billion crypto deal from the governments of countries in the Middle East does kind of make all of that seem like small ball, but that aside. That's to say nothing of Donald Trump's other cryptocurrency scam, selling access to the president for anyone who invests in his meme coin, including foreign interests. They're included, too. Noted crime hunter, of course, Mike Johnson, surely has an opinion about that, right? He must.
Investment in the meme coin, those folks are not transparent. We do not know who those people are.
I don't know anything about the meme coin thing. I don't know.
I mean, I would note that coverage of the crypto deals has been pretty extensive. It's all over the place. Everybody's covering it. And yet, somehow the Speaker of the House is blissfully ignorant, doesn't know a thing about it. All right, so maybe all this crypto stuff is too complicated, if I'm being generous, for a simple country lawyer like Mike Johnson. Maybe that's the thing. What about Trump's palace in the sky, courtesy of Qatar? I mean, that is everywhere. Surely the Speaker of the House must have some thoughts on that one, right?
If the president were to accept an airplane from the Qatari government, should Congress have approval over that kind of gift?
Look, I've been a little busy on reconciliation, so I'm not following all the twists and turns of the Qatar jet. I've certainly heard about it. I'm going to leave it to the administration. They know much more about the details of that, okay? It's not my lane.
I mean, first of all, it's not at all very twisty or very turny. It's a $400 million plane from Qatar that experts say could cost American taxpayers $1 billion. And again, it's hard to turn on a television and not see coverage of the plane. But hey, it's on his lane. So, you know, maybe he could ask whoever is supposed to approve presidential emoluments, right? Maybe he could ask that question of somebody. That would be, hold on, let me just check my notes here. Who does that? Oh, right, yeah, the United States Congress, of which he is the highest ranking member. It's literally their responsibility to approve such things. But really, this may be nothing more complicated, probably is, than Mike Johnson taking a page right out of Donald Trump and his administration's know nothing, we know nothing about it playbook. I mean, today alone was quite a day of blissful ignorance on Capitol Hill, quite a day. Because multiple members of Trump's cabinet testified today, facing questions about the very departments they are supposed to be running. But surprise, surprise, they all don't seem to know anything either. I mean, take, for instance, Trump's health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He is currently overseeing America's response to an unprecedented measles outbreak. Unprecedented. More than 1,000 people in this country have been infected with measles. More than 3 times the total number of cases than last year. And, of course, we're only in May, so it's only probably going to go up. But apparently, that's not the HHS secretary's lane.
If you had a child today, would you vaccinate that child for measles?
For measles, probably for measles. What I would say is my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. I don't want to seem like I'm being evasive.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me.
Do you love how he just seems like he just found himself on a panel? Okay, listen, I hate to agree with RFK Jr. on this one, and I rarely agree with him. Yeah, we probably should not be taking the medical advice of a notorious vaccine skeptic during a historic outbreak of an entirely preventable disease. But that said, he is, of course, the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I didn't pick him. Trump did. The Senate approved him. And that job means he's overseeing the entire health apparatus responsible for giving exactly that kind of guidance to the American people. That's his job. But at the very least, he's not a health expert somehow. He should at least know what's going on operationally in his own department, right?
Secretary Kennedy, how many staff have been cut from the NIH's clinical center? I want a specific number.
I can't tell you that now, Senator Murray. What I can tell you is that if you contact my office tomorrow, I'll look specifically into that.
Well, that is not acceptable.
RFK Jr. can't tell you how many people have been cut from the NIH. It's literally his job to know that. And I just want to stipulate, and I think this is an important point, that these hearings happen every budget season. I mean, these cabinet members have weeks to prepare. The hearings are scheduled weeks in advance in coordination with the agencies and scheduling teams who work for the people who are running the departments. None of this is a pop quiz. They're all predictable. All the questions that are probably going to come up, including questions about the very agencies and the budget of the agencies they're supposed to be running. And somehow yet they're totally unprepared. Now, of course, that includes, and don't worry, I wasn't going to forget him, former reality TV star and current Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. He has been overseeing the Transportation Department, of course, for more than 100 days. And yet all he can seem to muster is some bizarre blame he keeps repeating on the previous administration.
We're in this situation because the last administration didn't see to take initiative on the 3,000 controllers short that we were. The infrastructure didn't rot in the last 100 days. We didn't have 3,000 controller shortages in the last 100 days. There was 4 years that came before where nothing was done.
Okay. A couple of points here for Mr. Real World. First, the Biden administration actually passed the biggest infrastructure investment in American history. And while the number of air traffic controllers had been declining for over a decade, the Biden administration actually managed to reverse that trend and increase the number of air traffic controllers. You can see on the chart right there. It's also worth noting that since Trump took office, they've actually done a lot of work in this area. Don't be so modest, guys. They have a lot to talk about. I mean, they pushed out the head of the FAA after he pushed back on Elon Musk, fired the vice chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, gutted a key aviation safety committee, all of those things. Don't ask Secretary Duffy about any of that. He's only been on the job for 114 freaking days. Maybe at day 50, he'll really hit his stride. Guess we'll see. While he doesn't know what's going on at his agency, he sure did know enough to change his own wife's recent flight itinerary so that she wouldn't fly into the glitch-plagued Newark International Airport, something he admitted publicly. But guys, the whole point here is it's the same story at every one of these hearings. It doesn't matter which party is asking the questions. Just look what happened when a MAGA member of Congress tried to lob Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem a softball about whether she agrees with the White House's harebrained idea to suspend due process for immigrants.
Are you open and supportive of this constitutional option to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to keep Americans safe and carry out the president's agenda?
Well, this is something that's not in my purview to weigh in on. This is the president's prerogative to pursue, and he has not indicated to me that he will or will not be taking that action.
I mean, Congressman Crane's not trying to stick it to Kristi Noem, but her response was basically, the White House wants to do what now? Nope, that's not in my purview. Next question. But perhaps the most telling moment in all of these hearings was when Secretary Noem literally had to avert her eyes in order to retain her blissful ignorance. Little backstory here, which you likely remember. But in an attempt to do some damage control, the Trump administration released this photo you can see on the screen of Kilmar Obrega Garcia's hand tattoos, which they claim are secret code that show he's a member of the gang MS-13. Experts have cast doubt on those claims, of course, but the photo released by the Trump administration literally has superimposed little labels over each tattoo that spell out MS-13. It's quite apparent. You can see it on the screen. And Trump insisted those little labels on that doctored photo were actual tattoos, which of course is not true. But instead of answering a direct question about that, Secretary Noem took great, and I mean great, pains today to deny the reality we can all see with our very own eyes.
Is this doctored or is it not
Sir,
doctored?
I am taken quite seriously.
Is it
because
doctored
I
or not
approach my job
doctored?
with the importance that the president has given me to do
I understand.
my job.
Is it doctored or not
One thing
doctored?
that's important to remember is that every single time a case is built,
Madam Secretary, I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I have a bull detector. I'm just asking you, is this doctored or not doctored?
sir, the protocols in the case built against
Can you
Diego
answer the
Garcia
question?
were exactly the same.
Madam Secretary,
I don't have
you're-
any knowledge as to that photo you're pointing to.
Okay, can you
I
take
don't,
her,
sir.
can you show her the photo? My question is the numbers and the letter MS-13. Could you look at the photo, please? It's right in front of
Are
you.
you saying Abrego Garcia is not a wife beater?
No, ma'am.
That he's not a criminal?
Ma'am,
He's-
it's so
there was
telling
never a
that you
mistake
won't look at the
report him,
photo.
And we will not be bringing
Was
him back
it
to
doctored or not?
in staying here. If
Can you
he
look
comes
to
back
your
the
right
country, he
at
would
the
be
photo in
deported
front of
right
you?
away.
Madam Secretary, can you look to the right at the photo in front of you? Are those doctored or not?
Sir,
is that actually on his hand or not?
This is unbelievable to me that you're focused.
It's unbelievable to me that you can't
think,
look at the photo and tell the American
I looked
people.
at the photo, but I don't have any knowledge as to this photo.
I don't have any knowledge of the photo. Really? It's literally, I mean, it was like here. It was like feet away from her face. She had to avert her eyes not to look at the photo. But no one in the Trump administration seems to know what's going on these days. Or at least they've decided that blissful ignorance is preferable to answering the actual questions. But here's the thing. The American people know what's going on. They've shown that in protests after every day of the week in every corner of the country. And they've shown it to us poll after poll after poll. A recent CNN poll found that voters support trying to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. by a 36-point margin. A Reuters Ipsos poll just out today finds that Americans disapprove of Trump and RFK Jr.'s handling of the measles outbreak by a 9-point margin. And a Kaiser Family Foundation poll from last month found that Americans oppose cuts to Medicaid by a whopping 52-point margin. So, yeah, the Trump administration may not know what they are doing or pretend they don't know what's going on, but everyday Americans sure as hell do.